start the recording, switch to the right screen. Okay, so welcome back, guys. This is our third session, or really episode number 2 if you are a stickler for numbers. I don't really have but one announcement, and that announcement is pretty much what I've been saying these past couple weeks. We do have an opening in the Ophion game if any of you are interested. If you can't find the link, it's been posted, I think, pretty much everywhere, but feel free to ask me for the link proper if you can't find it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the Ophion game spot open for like another week or two, and if I can't find anyone in that time, I'm just going to I wouldn't call it closing the slot, but I think I'm just going to basically wait until someone comes to me in person and says, hey, I want to be in, etc., etc. So unless any of the players have any announcements of their own, let's just go ahead and jump right into things. So, Captain, would you
Oh,
read your
one
log,
second.
please? Oh,
What date? What's your recording day for that?
Ophion is on Saturdays at 2:15 p.m. Eastern daily, and it runs till about 5:15.
I may throw that to a friend of mine, so we'll see.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, you wanted that little captain's log, didn't you?
Yeah, can you also get a little bit closer to your mic because you are kind of quiet?
Negative. I cannot. I
All
can.
right, let
I
me see
can't
if I
get
can
any
boost you on
closer
my
to my
end.
mic. No, I'm lying. I can be. I can get closer. All right. Levels all right.
That's good. Yes.
All right. Captain's log. Stardate 58107.1. The Adiona is underway after passing through Pandora's Gate to arrive in the Andromeda Galaxy. As we advance through the graveyard of planet killers, I can't help but feel wonder that if a Ferengi ever got through the gate and claimed some of this as salvage, we'll all be in deep trouble. All in all systems are coming up green after the first jump, but we still have some T's to cross before we really start the mission. First, we really need a way to resist the radiation that's going on in our path, and finally, there is a guide for us to acquire on the mission. I hope they can be wooed with some apple pie.
Okay. So, as promised, we are pretty much starting, I'd say maybe all of 5 minutes after you all have gone through Pandora's Gate. So, this is kind of what you're looking at. The planet killers are not featured on this map because if I were to do them to scale, they would just fill up the map. But if you were to imagine, there are indeed somewhere between 10 to, I think I said 50 originally. There's a lot of planet killers in pieces, just sort of off to the side somewhere, away from the gate, in sort of, I guess you would call it a trash heap. There are defenses around the planet killers, similar to the ones that were on the other side of the gate, and there's also defenses for the gate itself. So this is a pretty well defended area, but, you know, as they say with any defense, it sometimes does not survive contact with the enemy. Luckily, there have been no enemies. So yeah, I did want to give you all a couple of moments, or however long you really want to do, bits of RP you wanted to get out of the way before we exited the subspace node and entered Andromeda proper.
Captain, permission to begin scans of the doomsday devices and the environment around us?
Permission granted, but do follow proper protocols for scanning these devices. We don't feel like blowing anything up with the unnecessary radiation going somewhere.
All right. So I think that would be a reason science, assisted by the ship's sensor science, and it's going to be a difficulty 0. Oh no, there is no star background because you are in a subspace node, and when you are in a subspace node, it is very similar to what was it called? I think it's the Void in Voyager. And there was also the one in Enterprise. Basically, you go into this space and you don't see any stars whatsoever. Anyway, okay, so
Can,
let's.
can someone else get the ship, and why don't the XO handle the ship?
Sure. It's what am I rolling here?
Sensor science.
Got you.
Okay, so you guys start off with 2 momentum. So, is there anything in particular you want to know about the planet killers?
From reports, I understand that they're inert, inoperable.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any structure left on the inside? I know they have a neutronium shell.
Mm-hmm. I would say that those which might be ones you could comb out the interior of, if you were to imagine someone took the planet killer, like some giant being took it, and sort of like ripping a snake in half, like they did that to a few of the planet killers. But much like the exterior of the planet killers, which is Neutronium, I would say these interior ones, your scans are inconclusive. You're kind of getting a reading on some things like basic materials, but I would say that unless you want to do a really in-depth scan, that you can tell that obviously this is some sort of energy generating place, or this is where the big old beam weapon is fired from, but you're not getting like down to the molecule specifics, if that makes any sense.
So you said a graveyard. They were destroyed, not mothballed.
No, this is, well, yes, you have it right. This is basically a junkyard of planet killers. There are maybe one or two which are mostly intact, but the majority of them are just in pieces.
Okay, and for my follow-up as a science officer, I'd like to ask if I can kind of date them as far as when this may have occurred.
That, I would say, is not something that even the Ophion or the Lysithia was able to find out. There is just not enough recognizable data. Like, for example, you could carbon date something in the Milky Way, but to my knowledge, a planet killer wouldn't have that sort of thing. So, I mean, you could take a ballpark guess based on what you know about this side of the gate, which isn't much. These have probably been here for over 100,000 years.
Okay, so I share that information with the captain and basically add that, Captain, beyond the reports that were given to us by Lysithia, there is nothing revealing with these initial scans.
So noted. Thank you.
Small question.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be possible to collect a piece of these killers and actually start analyzing it with the materials we have?
I would say you certainly could. I mean, there's no one in the node to stop you. However, the one thing I would say is that that would have to be an order from the captain.
Yeah, so that's because I sent a quick request for where I am to the captain asking that.
Okay.
Yeah. Add a character check. What's the restriction on metallurgical analysis of a bit of whatever is floating out here?
My understanding is that the original planet killer that we see in the original series, they pretty much just left floating in space. They didn't even really guard it that well. So I don't see a big problem with you guys taking bits of material, just as long as you're not trying to reactivate one of the things.
Yeah, I just want to take a look at the armor to see if I can find a way to incorporate a piece of it.
I would say find a piece that's already loose and small enough just to transport without any muss or fuss. Don't worry about harvesting it off any hulls. Otherwise, you may start something we don't want to finish.
Lieutenant,
Acknowledged.
Lieutenant Commander, are you interested in the internal structure or the neutronium shell? The neutronium is an extraordinary material.
The shell specifically may be useful for us later.
Okay. Let's see. I would say your cargo bay is about that big, so all right. We're just
I'm
gonna
not
make.
taking a huge piece, I'm taking a small piece.
Yeah. I'm just
Like
thinking.
fragments that are just floating out in a yard. If there's damage, there's bound to be like smaller, like hand-sized pieces of the armor or whatever.
Yeah. I'm just trying to discern how I want to establish how much you guys can take.
And it's beyond our technology to make neutronium like this, correct?
Correct. Though, fun fact, apparently the Dominion is able to make their doors out of neutronium. So the technology's out there, it just isn't very widespread. Anyway, let's do this. Let's have one of you, whoever wants to be responsible, Roll me a 1d20, and that will represent basically how many inches of material you're able to harvest.
One moment.
All right, so 18 inches, that's what, approximately half a meter? Something like that. I can do math in my head.
Yep.
So, yeah, you have no problem beaming aboard a half-meter sample of the Neutronium shell. For the moment, it's in Cargo Bay 1, but you certainly can move it to your heart's content.
It's got to be heavy.
Oh, yeah, like, this is going to require one of those, what are they called? The anti-grav kind of forklift things, that the name of which is slipping my mind at the moment.
I think it's actually anti-grav lift.
Oh, well, there you go. But yeah.
Captain, do you also want us to investigate the radiation in this area?
Yeah, I believe that was a standing tertiary order.
So the one thing I will say is that while you're in the node, you are not detecting any increased delta radiation. In fact, you're not really getting any readings outside of the node. It's as if you are in a bubble of curved space-time, because that is literally what a subspace node is. So if you want to get into the Andromeda Galaxy proper and see what you see, you do have to leave the node.
Do we already have all the details we need about life support settings and such once we get out here as far as radiation levels and everything else?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to throw you guys into a situation where you step outside and then suddenly you're in, say, a Class Y environment.
Well, yeah, I was just wondering if we would need to launch a probe first or not to confirm, that's all.
I mean, you certainly could. There's nothing stopping you, but no, there's no real need for it, I would say.
Yeah, that's fine. We may need to restrict our supplies anyway, so. All right, if nobody else has any business before we get started, let's go all ahead full.
Okay. Oh, we lost Mayweather. Well, hopefully he comes back. All right, so I'm going to push this onto this map, and I will kind of describe what you're seeing. So as the Adiona leaves the subspace node, these lights begin flickering into existence, these stars, and the view screen begins to fill as the subspace node kind of drops behind like a ominous shadow in space, if that makes any sense. Of note, the stars here are drastically different, so much so that both Merrick and Mayweather have to switch the computer from quote-unquote Milky Way mode to quote-unquote Andromeda mode. And meanwhile, Zava's console begins beeping at her from behind you, Captain. And she says, Sir, I am picking up the increased ambient delta radiation that we were expecting. Of course, it's nothing our deflector can't handle, but it does mean that if we're ever without it for an extended period of time, we would have to start worrying about exposure. Other than that, sir, we're alone out here, it seems. I'm not detecting any subspace traffic or really any signs of other starships.
Do we have a subspace network out here? You know, the signal buoys?
Oh, yes. You have a single buoy. Well, you have two buoys. One buoy is kind of on the edge of the subspace node, so it can receive both interior and exterior communication. And then there is another comms buoy about 10 light years out from the gate, where it is actually near Frill Prime, or Fry Prime, I should say.
May have to set another tertiary possible project in case we need to communicate further in to try to get another subspace node manufactured. If nothing else, just to act as a booster to any signal in case we get out of range of a node.
Okay. I would say that will be something I will note down immediately. Let's see, comms, extended task.
It's like I know our manufacturing is going to be limited with a ship of this size, but it never hurts to be prepared if we can crank one out.
No, that's a perfectly acceptable extended task. What I would say, as it comes to mind, is that the Midas array from Voyager might be a good place to start with that sort of technology. But that said, let's actually describe what you're seeing here on the map. So obviously, this map is kind of a top-down overview of the Andromeda Galaxy. Artist rendering, but you get the idea. Now, this is a very much a macro map because each hex is about 2,200 light years, or if you're going by QSD time, that's about 7.5 hours. So obviously, as we hit major points, I'm going to be moving us around and adding little waypoints. But if you guys want to start keeping track of like a smaller micro map, I would just say that if you were to do so, I would very gladly throw it here in Roll20 so that we can add to it real time. But that's pretty much where you are right now. The Adiona is that far out from the center of the Andromeda Galaxy. And yeah, this is where we're going to start doing a few extended tasks. So the first extended task is the one that the captain has mentioned in his log. And it is, how do I want to say this? It involves mapping the delta radiation and the gravimetric eddies in the immediate area. Now, this is going to be a extended task, obviously. This is going to be a default task of either reason or science, or reason plus science, or reason plus con. So pretty much Merrick or Mayweather, whichever one wants to do the main part of the role. And the ship is going to assist with computers in con. The base difficulty will be a 4, and the magnitude will be 3, and the work track will be 12. So, who would like to take a first stab at it?
Can we assist each other?
Yeah, you can assist each other.
Okay, well, I'll take the lead, I guess, and have Mayweather assist me in the ship. Is that good?
I mean, yeah, that sounds fine.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good to me.
All right, so you wanted me to start a new extended task, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have intense scrutiny, so for every effect, I guess I reduce the difficulty. Is that right?
I
If I
believe
get-
that is every effect you roll on the work track is an additional 1. I could be wrong, but I'll look it up.
I also have tested a theory that might come into play once we get involved.
You may ignore up to 2 resistance for every effect rolled. Okay, so you have piercing 2.
So would I begin with basically just a normal task roll, but it's an extended task?
Yeah, so I forgot this is probably our first time doing an extended task. So the way an extended task works is you do a normal task roll, so in your instance, a reason science, and if you get the required successes, so you get 4 successes because it is a base difficulty of 4, you then are going to roll 2 plus your discipline score. So in this instance, it would be 2 plus your science score. And you're rolling that many challenge dice, and whatever that result is how much work is done. And a extended task has a certain amount of work that needs to be done before it is considered to be finished. Now, as with all things in the system, or at least that seems to me, the magic number is 5. So if you get 5 work done in a single roll, then you achieve what is called a breakthrough. And what happens with a breakthrough is you reduce the difficulty of future tasks by 1. And you also need a certain number of breakthroughs to complete the task.
Okay, well, I'd like to use a momentum.
Okay.
So it gives me 3 rolls currently. I have cautious science and technical expertise, which will give me a roll, another re-roll, I guess, on the ship or me.
Do we have momentum?
Yes, you should have 2.
So I guess I have 3 dice at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a focus being sensor systems.
Okay.
Guess I'll use a reroll.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm guessing you're gonna re-roll that 20.
It begins.
Do I just repeat the task with one die?
Yeah, you just repeat it with one dice. And Galen, I don't think anyone is tracking at the moment, so thanks for volunteering.
Yay! I love being voluntold. Do we have zero now? Because he uses cautious to reroll, which takes the momentum.
He's got both cautious and technical expertise, so he's actually got 2 free rerolls.
Okay.
All right, so unless he wants to crit fish, that's 3 successes.
Someone might want to roll the ship at least.
Yeah.
Mayweather?
If Mayweather's alive, he can roll the ship. Otherwise, I don't mind doing so.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do it, Morgan, because I'm not hearing Mayweather.
Okay, walk me through this
So,
one more time.
all you're
Please.
doing for the ship is you're just going to roll a computer's con, and remember the ship always has a focus. Well, would you look at that? That is a grand total of 5 successes, which means you actually get that momentum right back. And now, Merrick, you can now roll your challenge dice. So, for example, your science score is a 5, so you're going to be rolling 7 challenge dice. All right, very nice. So you do achieve a breakthrough. And narratively, to describe what's happening. So, Merrick, you kind of do a wideband scan of the immediate area. And the first thing that comes to your attention is the fact that the gravimetric eddies, which you were warned about, are in a pseudo-random positioning. And I say that not because it would, speak to you as being artificially created, but there's definitely a pattern here. Now, what that pattern might be in a larger scale, you're not sure, but you looking at the data might be able to predict where eddies might be farther out, if that makes any sense. The other thing that you're able to determine off this roll is that the delta radiation kind of ebbs and flows, almost as if it were a light bulb that were being powered up and powered down, but never quite turned off.
So it's a source.
Of sorts, yeah.
Okay, so I explained this to the captain and let him know that the eddies are basically seem to be some kind of pathway or traffic type situation. We could possibly predict it or even develop a map of this eddy network.
Alrighty. Alright, well, keep on it.
All right, so we're going to do a.
So how often do we do an extended task, though?
Well, the way extended tasks usually work are you just kind of keep doing tasks until either you succeed or a certain amount of time has passed. So let's do another roll. And really, the reason we do extended tasks is it's a good way to, I guess, sort of gate how fast you learn things, but it's also a very good way to build momentum, or so I've found. But yeah, you're pretty much just repeating the same roll you just did. And I'm going to let you guys do this probably another 2 or 3 times, and then we'll move on. Okay. All right. I'm assuming you're going to re-roll that 20?
Yeah.
Okay. While he's doing that, Morgan, if you would be able to do the ship, please.
Of course, of course.
Okay. All right, so the ship doesn't really help this time, but thankfully Merrick got the 4
Now,
successes, actually. So that's...
Testing the theory. I'm sorry. Testing the theory reduces the difficulty by 1 now?
Let's check testing a theory. You may roll 1 additional d20. I'd say that would be your extra d20 because you did do 3 dice. So you actually would get a momentum, so you would be at 3 overall.
Yeah, okay. We didn't spend any momentum, and my technical expertise covered the reroll.
Correct. All right. So, again, just do another 7 challenge dice to see what kind of work has been done. Yeah, that's all you need. Like I said, these are good ways to get momentum. So, Merrick, you're really nailing or really kind of narrowing it down to get a feel for how the radiation levels are. Why are they going? Why are they strengthening, that kind of thing. And obviously, while you can't determine the entire nature of the Andromeda Galaxy in one go, you are able to determine that it's not just the center of the galaxy radiating outwards. There also seems to be increased pockets of radiation, sort of speckled throughout the area.
So it's not a decay. It's literally a wave.
Sort of, yeah.
I share the information with the crew. Trying to think of another question, though. Can I narrow in on the pockets, the nearest pockets?
Yeah, I'd say you did enough work. You are able to get a basic map, I would say, of the, we'll say, 5 light year radius around your ship. Yeah, so if you go anywhere within that 5 light year radius, you know how to avoid both the radiation pockets and the gravimetric eddies.
Oh, now I understand what you're basically telling me is that we have to map these radiation pockets and eddies as possible hazards.
Mm-hmm. More or less.
Okay, so I inform Mayweather and pass the information to him so he can navigate this.
Okay.
One more thing to verify too is if we can pass through these when we're underneath QSD, or if we actually have to turn the ship when we're in QSD.
Okay. Can that be my free question?
That could be your free question. All right. So I would say the answer to that would be I would say 75% sure, we'll say. That QSD travel through one of these nodes won't be a problem as long as the deflector is doing its job. Now, if there's a malfunction with the deflector, it would be kind of the equivalent of a car going through a puddle on the road, like a deep puddle. It's just going to kind of spray radiation or kind of, not, I wouldn't say sink the ship, but we'll say there's a possibility of you stalling.
Okay. Captain, it is possible to navigate through these hazards. If we do happen to cross one as we are in QSD, it would take a very close monitoring of the not only the QSD system, but deflectors as well. So we would have to monitor both systems very carefully.
Alrighty.
Side note, guys, I have focus in deflector systems.
Sounds like you're the man for the job.
I have a question.
I might have an answer.
Wonderful. Based on the information that we just gathered and the additional information from the other ships that were here before us, is it possible, however unlikely, that this is something we could potentially run a pattern recognition algorithm on to better understand the nature of these eddies and how to better navigate these hazards?
I actually have a thing for that. Let me find where I put it. Okay, so this is the way I had basically envisioned this. This is going to be some sort of extended task, but it's going to be one of those extended tasks that you can only do one roll a session against. And it is going to be a pretty hefty difficulty on the extended task. There it is. So you now should see in the top right of the screen, there should be a extended task box along with some numbers.
I see it.
And I would qualify you guys mapping the delta radiation as a form of defense.
It's not only mapping the spatial effect, but also timing aspect, correct?
Correct.
I have a question.
I might have an answer.
Curious if there's any patterns to it.
How long has it been since Galen's last interaction with the last senior staff members? Like, how long has it been?
That's a question for your fellow players.
When I turned you off, or tried anyway.
Was that like a couple of days ago or so?
That was like literally the moment before we went through the gate, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would say that's maybe been an hour, maybe 2.
Okay.
I have yet to take my physical still, by the way.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Yeah, he's keeping a log of it. He's gonna hound you for it. It's gonna be great.
I'm sure.
In the middle of your sleep, you'll just hear physical.
Let's get physical.
Oh God, please no. All right, so as I said, this extended task is going to be a 1 roll a session type thing. And as you can see, there are some pretty hefty things. So your default difficulty is a 5, and you have resistance 2, which you probably can get rid of with your intense scrutiny. But this is a very difficult extended task. And the default here is going to be either reason plus engineering or reason plus science. So Havoc could jump in if he wanted. And this is going to be assisted by the ship's computers plus engineering. And aside from either Havoc or Merrick assisting one another, I will allow one other individual on the senior staff to assist, but you have to give me a good justification of what you're doing.
Okay, you said it's a difficulty of 5?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I would make a reason plus science roll. If anybody else wants to assist, I mean, that's up to them.
Assist.
All right. Well, let's go roll this and see what happens.
Well,
Would my focus?
Oh, go ahead.
Would my? I'm sorry. Would my focuses also apply here in this role? Possible, because I do have astro navigation as a focus.
I would say that would definitely apply. I also would say that you do have 3 momentum sitting pretty if you wanted to get extra dice.
Let's try it out.
So just double checking. I just rolled 1 reason plus science, right?
Yeah. Wait, hold on. Run that by me again.
I am assisting him with reason plus science.
You're assisting with reason and engineering, because that is Havoc's sort of main shtick.
Oh yeah.
I'll assist as well.
Okay.
Wonderful.
It's 1 roll, right?
Yes, it's 1 roll for assisting. Okay.
Applicable focus.
Wait, was that it? Is that too many dice?
Yeah,
or did he
that's a little bit too many dice.
I'm sorry, that's my bad.
No, it's okay. I'll be nice and we'll throw out that 20. So you would have 4 successes at the moment.
Applicable focus or no?
Yes, you would. Okay, well, would you look at that? Someone does need to still roll for the ship, but I think you have gotten as much successes as you need. A different one, Mayweather, if you can hear us. If not, if someone could roll for the ship.
I'll take that.
Okay.
So if it's a 5,
What's the ship rolling again?
The ship is rolling computers and engineering.
so if it's a 5 difficulty task, I'm not adding 5d20 to the dice pool on the sheet.
Correct. The difficulty 5 is how many successes you need.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
There it is.
All right, so I believe you actually get 2 momentum back. And yeah, we'll say that you have achieved some work. So now, Morgan, if you could roll me a, what is your science? A 4, so 6 challenge dice.
Out of character, are we using tokens on the extended task meter there?
Sort of, yes. I'm going to use the bars and the other. In fact, I don't think you guys can see them. Yep, that's why.
Oh, yeah, because I know we had one breakthrough already, so I was
Yeah,
just checking.
there you go. Should be able to see the bar now.
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear
Captain.
us? Guess not. All right. So yeah, Morgan, you having trouble finding the macro, or did he step away? Did we lose Morgan?
I can hear you guys fine now.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and Galen just said he's back, so.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
What was it? I'll go ahead and roll the challenge dice.
it was just 6 challenge dice. Okay. So, you do 4 work, but unfortunately, that is not the magic number you need for a breakthrough.
Doesn't he have an effect related to this or no?
No. Since Morgan was the one doing the roll and not Merrick, he does not have intense scrutiny unless he literally changed it when I wasn't looking.
Gotcha.
But hey, you still did 4 work out of 15 needed, so hey, it's something. You've made progress. And yeah, I would say, again, narratively, to describe what happens is you all run the data you have from your sensors nice and fresh against the Lysithia's logs. And I would say you're now, we'll say about 20 light years out in every direction is your safe zone at this point.
Reminder, guys, according to Lysithia, it's a 75 light year radius communication back to Pandora.
Mm-hmm.
And Captain, as you recall, I did narrow down one of these concentrations of radiation if you wish to investigate it nearby.
Yeah, I'm definitely game. As long as it's in the same general direction, no problem.
All right, well. Are you
Any
going to the Eddy?
Any planetary systems nearby?
No, well, sort of, I guess, in a cosmic sense. You do know that Frill Prime, where the captain did have a kind of a plot hook if he wanted to take it. That is about 10 light years away, and that is probably the nearest star system to where you guys are.
Yeah, that's where we have a contact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's on the way, so might as well head in that direction since we know there's at least something on the planet just in case we need something.
Okay. So, we'll say, for sake of argument, you do find your way towards the planet, well, the system really, and along the way you do encounter, or at least pass by, one of the pockets of radiation. So, passing by, is there anything you wanted to do in particular with the pocket, or are you just trying to get a general scan of it?
A general scan, but I'm trying to understand why it's a pocket. Does it resonate with the main pulse from the center of the galaxy? Does it have its own pulse? Why is it a source, or is it a reflection?
Ooh, okay. I'm going to say that that's going to be a reason or insight plus science. And I'm going to make it a difficulty 3, but the ship cannot assist you on this, because this is you purely looking at the data and trying to discern some information from it.
Theoretical physics is a focus?
Sure.
May I assist using security to either confirm or eliminate the fact it could be a weapon?
Um, sure, I'll let it happen.
And what was the difficulty?
The difficulty is a 3.
All right, and I'd like to buy use 1 momentum.
Okay. So you have 1 overall. Well, there's the 3 you needed. Mayweather, if you would do the assist roll, maybe get more momentum. No help there. But, okay. I'm going to give you...
Well, I threw a couple questions at you, so I think that covers my free one, too.
Yeah, I'm just trying to determine how much I want to say here. Looking at the data and looking at the patterns, it occurs to you that the ebb and flow is not unlike the circulatory system of a humanoid, in that these sort of groupings of radiation, these clouds, however you want to qualify them, are possibly what could be pulse points, where the in a circulatory system it keeps the blood flowing, but here it might be letting the radiation flow.
Is it a form of energy?
In a sense, I would say this is sort of some sort of naturally occurring amplifier.
Okay, I guess I'm not separating the ebb or the flow. Is that the radiation itself ebbing and flowing?
Yes. So imagine if the sort of radiation is coming in waves, like waves against a beach.
Is the radiation a byproduct of whatever's ebbing and flowing?
Well, that is how do I want to say this? So imagine if the radiation was blood and it was going out in every direction. And obviously the blood has to go through the heart, so that would be the center of the galaxy. And as the blood travels outward from the center of the galaxy, it hits pulse points, which amplify the radiation that is being transmitted. And the pulse points, these clouds of radiation, are either where radiation is gathering because of some particle in space, or it is simply just a collection, a random collection of such. And this ebb and flow is sort of meant to represent, as I said, beaches, or a beach where the radiation is not a constant stream. It is a on and off, sort of fading in and out type of situation.
Yeah, a pulse.
Yeah, a pulse.
Yeah, okay, understand that now.
Okay.
As they're doing stuff up on the bridge, I have a Andromeda down in sickbay, right?
Yeah, you would.
I'm getting the sense that like I'm able to read the bridge readouts, right?
I would say that it would be something you could look up as senior staff, yeah.
Uh, since Andromeda's a native of this galaxy, I want to scan her.
Okay.
I want to see how she.
Where's Andromeda?
Where is Andromeda? Come here, Andromeda. I don't bite.
Alright, so Andromeda's there and says, Galen, not that I mind a sensor scan, but what are you after here?
Well, considering there's unique radiation from this galaxy and the galaxy core, you might have an inverse reaction to it, or maybe a symbiotic reaction.
Oh. Well,
Yes.
I don't actually think you need to scan me. I can probably just tell you, but scan away if you wish, but my suit, my biosuit, and she kind of motions at herself. That is partially why my species has these sort of symbiotic suits, is that we need it to survive. Though, obviously, it's not just for survival, but unfortunately my knowledge of, sort of what extra things the suits are used for is It's not something that's come back to me over the years.
Interesting. If you wouldn't mind, I wouldn't mind taking a sample of your blood. We could expose it to some radiation within a containment field and see how it interacts.
Sure, Doctor. Just give me a hypospray.
And I'll hand her a hyperspray.
All right, so she takes it, puts it against, we'll say, her left shoulder, goes, tsh, and you see that the little blood canister fills with a greenish blue liquid that I would say is probably more teal than anything else, but it fills it up, and she hands it back to you and says, "That should be enough to tide you over for now."
It is, thank you, and thank you again for consenting to this.
Of course. I mean, again, you guys pretty much are my ride. Like to keep things happy and, pleasant.
I'll slightly tilt my head at her. Like, we're not... How do I want to say this? If you feel uncomfortable with something, please tell us. We're not going to stop and kick you off the ship the moment you say no. We're not like that. At least I hope we're not.
Well, I mean, I will certainly voice any displeasure I have, but my time on the Arcadia and time at the Daystrom Institute taught me that sometimes it's not worth making waves about certain things.
Well, you can't go surfing without waves, now can you?
Fair.
You'll smile and go set up a containment field and... Doctor to Captain.
Sorry, was it a comm call?
Yes.
This is the captain.
Permission to beam aboard a small sample of radiation within a containment field.
Yeah, I can delegate that to the science officer. He can supervise whatever you're doing.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
All right. So, I'm trying to remember how they did it in the show. It was some sort of canister that you could beam a sample of the charged particles into. And I'm not going to make this a roll. I'm just going to say that you're able to do it. And yeah, Galen, you now have a sample of radiation and a sample of Andromeda's blood.
I want to mix the blood in with the radiation.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, science officer, did you copy that? I've delegated that responsibility to you.
Yeah, I did. He just he covered it himself really fast. The only thing
Alright,
the only thing I recommend is a force field around it.
Yeah. I would think that actually might be Galen's standard MO, because since he is a hologram, he can just pass through force fields no problem.
Yeah, I figured that's part of the standard hazard precaution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, containment kind of includes that kind of a protection anyway.
Yep. So yeah, Galen, I'd like you to roll me a Insight Medicine, and I'm gonna make the difficulty here. We'll make it a 2. Why not?
Alright. Focus xenobiology?
It is Andromeda's blood, so yes, that would apply.
Excellent. The only one I have, so I don't get the 3. I don't get the 3 rolls. Haha. Ooh. Oh, I didn't declare it. Damn. Never mind. My bad.
No, it's okay. I'm going to say that I will let this succeed at cost, but I'm going to take threat instead of a complication.
Oh, I do have cautious medicine.
But you need to spend a momentum in order to do that.
Yeah.
He's
That's why.
He is in his lab.
This is true. Thank you for reminding me. You are the chief medical officer in your sickbay, so actually the difficulty is only a 1. So, what you're able to discern from looking at the data and looking at the sample, the nanomachines that are in Andromeda's blood are, I guess you would say, feasting on the radiation. They are taking it and basically turning it into a usable form of energy. Now, obviously, these nanomachines don't need this sort of radiation, but you would get the sense that if you were to stick Andromeda out on the hull, that she would be completely fine, even outside of the deflector.
So, would this look normal for her nanomachines to do, or does it look like they're like ravenous little hungry guys right now?
I would say more the latter, but it's nothing extreme.
Okay. It's like they've had pea soup for a long time, now they're having the good stuff.
Sort of, yeah.
Oh. Apparently your nanomachines, Andromeda, quite prefer the taste of this radiation versus the Milky Way.
Doesn't quite surprise me. I had a hunch that would be the case.
Very interesting. Well, if we ever need something to soak up radiation, and if you're obliged to it, we could use you.
Well, as long as you don't drain me dry, Doctor.
No. I'm not Frankenstein.
Never heard of this Frankenstein.
He made monsters. Well, a monster. I'll show you the movie sometime. Actually, can you act?
Act? Like, as entertainment?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before, so I don't know.
Well, we'll find out. And I'll just go back to studying what's happening with the radiation.
Okay. Alright, so as probably you guys can figure out, there is a time lapse between you guys leaving Pandora's Gate to get to Frill Prime. And, you know, it's kind of open RP. That will go as much as you guys have scenes, but if you want me to skip ahead, I can do that too.
I'd like to walk in the tail end of the discussion here in the med bay.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Alright, so you walk on in.
Hello, Doctor. Hello, Andromeda.
Hello, science officer.
Did the sample suffice? Were you able to learn much from it?
Preliminary results are interesting. Shall I forward you a copy?
Yes, please. And I scan it briefly. I have a thought right now based on what you've done so far. Right now, Andromeda is protected under our deflector, our shields. What if she was exposed to the full radiation field? Would she what's the word, guys?
Metamorphically.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Well, without tossing her in harm's way, we can only theorize. I would like to study in small scale first before we attempt anything large scale, as long as she is willing and permitting.
Okay, understood. If we ever have an issue with the radiation penetrating into the ship itself, we would have to be aware that Andromeda might be at great risk, or change in some fashion.
I think if the radiation gets aboard the vessel, everyone's at great risk. But I understand your concerns. Andromeda, do you think you'll become a random raging monster if you're exposed to too much radiation?
She kind of tilts her head to the side, thinks for a moment, and says, I mean, it did take me over 10 years to gather enough energy to change my suit. So I guess while it's technically possible for me to do so much more quickly, I don't really have a need to change my suit at the moment, so I guess my answer is no?
I've always wanted to have a question. Is your suit sentient? Are you both separate consciences, or are you merged into one, similar to how a Trill is?
Trill symbiote would be the best descriptor or metaphor that I would use, yes.
So is the suit able to be passed on to someone else, or does it die with you?
It dies with me.
Ah, singular joining then. Fascinating. Anything else, Lieutenant?
No, thank you very much.
Can you sing?
Sing, Doctor?
Yes. Carry a tune.
I'm sorry, I do not believe I can sing. I can recite pi in my sleep, though, according to Havoc.
Fascinating. Very well. Thank you.
So, Havoc, Captain, Mayweather, did you guys have any scenes you wanted to get out of the way?
Captain's pretty much chilling. I'm pretty much just trying to oversee the ship since we just got here. You try to get a feel for how things are going to be normally. So unless somebody else comes up with something, I'm pretty much just standard duty.
Okay.
Um,
I'll go to astrometrics and begin mapping, and I'd like Havoc to join me in Mayweather, just so we can try to get the best map we can.
Sure.
Sure.
All right, so Andromeda isn't there, but let's get everybody else's token on there. You guys can start as I get the tokens set up.
It's not really just, this is where I would pass some time, but if they have any input into what we should be doing to further things along here, that's fine.
Well, do either of you, I suppose, have any input to that?
Well, I have Pathfinder talent, so I'll try to figure out what's the easiest way to either get to the radiation, limit our exposure to any radiation, that kind of thing.
Okay. I would say you're probably taking the forefront of the mapping part of the data. While Havoc, I'm a little bit curious what you're doing with the information.
I would ask her, would the Neutronium protect us?
It's a fair question. I see Havoc typing. Okay. Yeah, if your voice is dead, that's fine. Yeah, because you had the outpatient today. Okay. In that case, unless any you, I guess, want to make a scene out of it, that is, I guess, what is just sort of passing time. Did Morgan come back yet?
yes, is Morgan here?
Is Morgan here?
Okay, Morgan is
Yes.
here. So Morgan, did you have any bits of RP before we get to Frill Prime?
Yes, I'd like to. If Lieutenant Zava has not already handed me the potential list of pilots for our small shuttle, then I would absolutely like to get that done.
Okay. So we'll say I get to actually put you guys on a new map. So obviously there's not room on this ship for like a full lounge. So there are one or two spaces or parts of the hull where there is just sort of like an alcove where chairs, a table, and a replicator have been set up. And I am currently calling this 3 forward, but you guys can certainly rename it to whatever you wish. And we'll say that this is probably where you and Zava are going over the lists of pilots. And of course, Zava's name will come up, Mayweather's name will come up, and then one or two further ensigns who I think we were building off screen, but we don't have a set in stone name for them yet. But needless to say, the total number of pilots is probably limited to about 4 or 5.
Alrighty then. Well, in that case, then I suppose I'll just jump right into it. I'll just ask Lieutenant Zava exactly. First of all, I would thank her for the actual list of bringing me this potential duty roster.
Mm-hmm.
And I ask her, who exactly would be your first pick?
Well, sir, if my services were not needed at Tactical here on the Adiona, I would like to pilot the Valkyrie fighter myself.
I could certainly respect that choice, Lieutenant. However, like you mentioned, I feel like you'd be best served at Tactical. However, in a situation where it's not necessarily time pressing or we're not necessarily find ourselves in the middle of a conflict, I'd absolutely see you being able to pilot the fighter to the best of your ability. I like to.
Oh, great.
Sorry. I like to make sure that at least we keep our bridge officers, at least Where I could see them on the bridge. That doesn't mean that's their only place, but we're a small ship, and I don't necessarily like to separate experienced crewmen if we come into a crisis.
She nods and says, "That's all very reasonable, sir. In that case, I'd say that, well, Mayweather's out in that case. I guess I would say Mr. Smith would probably be our next best bet."
However, I am looking over Mr. Smith's records, and I do believe, and it goes without saying, even though his scores are his flight simulation scores are applicable, he's not as great as a pilot as you are. So I'd like you to take it upon yourself to train with Mr. Smith and the other potential ensigns on this roster, just to make sure and shore them up to make sure that they have the ability to pilot this.
I will schedule holodeck time to that effect, sir.
Wonderful. I want everybody familiar intimately with the ins and outs of this ship and our shuttlecraft.
I'll make it so.
One more thing, Lieutenant. Have you gotten your physical yet?
Oh. No. I completely forgot. Have you gotten yours done?
Morgan looks around, he darts really quickly, and then he ignores the questions and he says, "You should go get that done, as soon as possible."
So I was gonna look at you a little bit weird, like, a little bit narrowing of the eyes, and says, "You're not afraid of the doctor, are you?"
Me? No, I'm not afraid of doctors. I'm afraid of hyperspace.
As soon as he say that, I want to materialize next to him.
You know what? Sure. You're a hologram. We've established you can do this. Sure. There you go. A little bit silly, but we'll let it happen.
Commander, Lieutenant.
Doctor?
Have you showed up for your physical yet, Commander?
No, I have not. Lieutenant Zala and I are absolutely going over the potential roster for shuttlecraft pilots.
Oh. Have you completed it, Lieutenant?
Yes, Doctor. I believe I was just about to head to sickbay along with the commander. And she looks kind of
Excellent.
questioningly at the commander, like, what story are we playing here?
Actually, Lieutenant, you and I are gathering the rest of the ensigns and we're going immediately to Holodeck 2.
Well, I think you could spare some time for a order to report to sickbay.
I'd love to, Doctor, but I'd really like to make sure I meet these crewmen sooner rather than later. Tomorrow's too late.
Oh, I'm sure they can wait 5-10 minutes. It's a quick physical. I'm not injecting you or taking anything from you.
Morgan looks at Zava, but he gives her the look such a, "I need you to bail me out of this, but I'm also going to make this an order."
Roll me a presence plus command. Make the difficulty here a 2. And unless you have intimidation as a focus, you don't have any focuses that would apply.
I do not, unfortunately.
Okay, well, you got the 2 successes you need. So she says, well, the commander's right. We really should be meeting these ensigns as soon as possible. Couldn't you just, I don't know, give us a tricorder scan here and that would be enough?
I prefer to have you both on my bio bed, one after the other, for a detailed scan. After all, if you were to mutate suddenly in this new space and galaxy, I'd have no base comparison to restore you to. Unless you would like an extra expendage.
Doctor, you are a capable medical officer with no doubt tons of resources currently available to you. I'm sure I will get you the information that you request at a later date. But for now, we really should be meeting these pilots. Come along, Lieutenant.
So,
GM, when does the shipwide go off?
Oh, yeah. So you stand, I imagine, and Zava very hesitantly starts to follow you. But unless Galen literally says, "As your chief medical officer, I hereby officially order you," blah 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 blah.
Wow, I've given them orders twice.
Well, have you brought it up to the captain? Is my response to that.
That will be my next step.
Actually, I'm just waiting for my cue from the GM.
Ah. Well, I imagine with that, with them walking away, Captain, you're probably in your ready room, and Galen just sort of materializes.
Oh, I do the polite thing. I beep first the door.
Okay.
Oh wow, okay. You're just gonna
Well,
appear in
actually,
my conversation.
the note I slipped to the GM was to interrupt what was going on with a ship-wide announcement.
Oh, I see it now. Sorry. Yes, you can go right ahead before Galen maybe steps in.
Yeah, because this scene change is necessary. If you can flip me back to where we were.
Yeah. What are you saying on your ship-wide comm?
No, I mean, go ahead and flip the scene back so we can see them because I'm interrupting their scene from the
Oh,
bridge.
I see what you're saying. Sorry. Yeah. Give me a second. There you go.
All hands, this is the captain. I have a preliminary report of the medical screening for the crew. This is considered priority 1. If you do not get this done within the next 4 hours, you will be seeing me in my office. This means you. Captain out.
So Zava very hesitantly laughs and says, "Well, I guess we're going to sickbay now."
Just slowly tilt my head to look to the commander and smile.
Morgan's trying to hide, his eyes darting back and forth because he's quickly trying to figure a way out of this. But nothing's coming to mind.
I am going to activate a talent of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Alternate subroutines. I'm going to activate psychology.
Okay.
And I'll replace, let's see, genetic engineering with it, just for now.
Okay. So yeah, you kind of switch gears to sort of get a better insight on what's up with Morgan. And I would say there's not really a rules as written rule for this, but I would say Morgan's going to need to do another presence plus command. Let's do presence plus con, because presence con is your composure. And then Galen, I would say either insight con or insight medicine. I do want to say con is probably better, but I'll allow medicine regardless. And since it is an opposed roll, it pretty much is going to be whoever gets the most successes.
Alright, and I have a focus of psychology.
Yeah, you do, so that would apply.
So standard difficulty.
We'll say that if difficulty is needed, we'll make it a difficulty 1.
Okay.
I'm going to burn the momentum to get an extra dice.
Nice.
If I ever get the cold from this crew, holy crap, man.
Ooh.
Okay, so that's interesting. Morgan, if you would do your presence con, and we'll see how you stack up.
Can I attempt to use my focus of diplomacy to try to, absolutely convince the doctor that, there's a time for everything, but this just isn't it?
I would say if you have deception, I would let it happen. But no, I would say diplomacy would not apply here.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, unfortunately. So it's difficulty 1, but you always roll a standard 2 unless you're assisting.
I see.
So yeah, just roll me another 1 and we'll see where you stack up. Okay. So I'm going to let you decide how much information you tell the doctor on this, Morgan, because it's your character. But Galen, even with that complication, which I'm taking threat for, he is going to get a acute, not understanding, but hunch on what's going on with you and what's going on in your head. So how would you describe this, I guess, narratively?
How would I describe Morgan's apprehension?
Yeah, like obviously he's not going to know the why, but maybe like let's use Arcadia for example. Crowley had a thing where he was, I guess you would say, averse to main engineering being damaged because he lost someone there. Obviously, Galen's not going to be able to determine that level of detail, but he would be able to pick up hints, if that makes any sense.
Okay, well, I'd say that Morgan would absolutely be. When he's slightly nervous but still trying to remain calm, he's going to be rubbing his shoulder. Just a bit. Because I mentioned earlier that to Lieutenant Zava before the doctor arrived that he dislikes hypospace. So that could be his tell.
Okay.
Lieutenant Zava,
Yes, sir.
if you'd please be so kind and to meet us in sickbay, we'll be joining you shortly.
I will head there immediately, sir.
Thank you.
And she scuttles off. She knows when not to be around.
I sit down and look at the commander. I was like, is it because I'm a hologram, or is there something else?
It has nothing to do with you being a hologram, Doctor.
That's good to hear. I've already encountered a couple of crew that have reservations about being treated by me. But they seem to understand that if they don't get treated by me, no one's going to treat them.
I don't have to remind you that you are the chief medical officer on board this ship.
No. It's a title I'm proud to have. What's your hesitation, though?
I don't know what you mean.
I would like to remind you that I'm also acting as a counselor. I have training with psychology and therapy. Does the sick bay make you nervous?
I'm afraid of hyperspace, Doctor.
Well, if you would like to lag behind just a few minutes, I'll make sure all the hypersprays are removed. I don't need one for this physical. It's just a deep level scan, just to make sure that if something were to happen, I'm able to help you.
That would be acceptable.
Excellent. Well, have something refreshing. I will see you in a few moments.
Doctor,
Yes?
I know it's not necessarily a standard procedure, but I mean, if this is just a regular physical, do you still, obviously in the purest sense of you acting as a counselor, are your wines and spirits located in sickbay, or are they still in the cargo hold?
I'll just say my desk doubles as a bar.
Alright, good to know. Good to know.
And I'll transport my program back to sickbay.
Okay. And yeah, Zava is already there, just sort of waiting on the biobed. And says, well, that was a little bit weird, Doctor.
Was it?
Well, I mean, I'm a Ryzian. I'm used to keeping people happy, but of course I'm also the chief tactical and chief security. I guess I would say I'm a little bit apprehensive of what might happen if Morgan were injured.
Well, if he's ever injured, send him my way.
Well, I mean, how he would react. I mean, there have certainly been no shortage of stubborn individuals in Starfleet that have problems with getting treated.
That is true. But you have two eyes, and you have to keep them looking in one direction. You can look at my right hand while my left hand does something else. I'm sure if needed, I'll keep him distracted long enough that he'll be sedated and then taken care of, if the need arises.
Well, sir, as long as you don't tell Morgan this, if you ever need a security personnel to help restrain the commander, I will give you a discrete comm frequency to basically beep, and we will send someone right away.
Good to know. And as I say that, I split off into two little other Galens taking care of all the hypersprays.
Okay.
And they better have them numbers on their shoulders too.
One has black hair, one has a redhead.
Yeah, as long as they're differentiated, that's all I care about.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, we'll say, for sake of argument, that Zava's physical goes without a hitch. She seems to be in prime physical condition.
Excellent.
And yes, I would say Havoc is probably about done with your scans at this time. But I'm just curious where Havoc would come into play here.
So once she's done, I will gladly wait for the commander.
Okay. I think you would have been informed before that, not just by the doctor, but probably by Scuttlebutt, that 3 Forward does have a small supply of liquor that is kind of, take as you want, but make sure you give something back. And you could also just go to a sick bay and get a drink that way. So those are the 2 locations that would come to mind, really. But while we're dealing with that, let's get Morgan in here. So, Zava on the way out says, "Oh, Commander, excuse me." And pretty much she walks out, and in walks the commander.
Commander, the bed has already been kept warm.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And he kind of tiptoes closer to it. But it's a tiptoed stride, And
And
he slowly makes his way over.
I don't know, the big one in the center, Commander.
Right. Of course.
One of my devils comes out holding a fair-size cup in his hand with green liquid in it. Would you like this now or after the scan?
Now, please.
And my devil will hand him the glass. It's like, I hope you do appreciate a synthahol variety of this just because you're still on shift. But it should give you still the nice little relaxing kick. It's a replication of Altarian brandy.
Doctor, I'm not much of a synthahol fan.
Now, there's a little bit of real
Can we
Altarian
ma-
brandy mixed in.
Can we make it a lot of bitter ale?
Well, I did get a new packet information of something called Wake Up Sauce.
That's certainly something that I'd be interested in.
GM, question. Beckett's Wake Up Sauce. What is that again?
It is magical hand wavium that gets rid of hangovers.
Oh, okay.
Actually, there's 2 Beckett specials. There's the one that gets rid of hangovers, and then there's the other one that's the equivalent of shooting 6 5-hour energies at once.
Jesus. Alright, yeah, Boom Boom Sauce and Hot Sauce?
Sure. Better names than I've got for them.
Yeah, I'm looking at the message he messaged me of what was on the pad he gave the captain. What was meant for me, I guess. If the captain's giving me that pad.
You mean the pad of what, the liquor that I acquired?
Yeah.
Probably me and the XL are probably the ones that have that. Can't have the crew getting into there.
Okay. So I don't know that. But yeah, I'll give him a real Altarian brandy.
Okay.
By the way, XL, you have you can distribute that as you see fit as well.
Understood.
And yeah, I'll do his scan.
All right. So, because I feel like you guys could use some momentum, reason plus medicine, difficulty 0.
Biology and anatomy, so extra dice on that.
You would have that focus, yes.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Okay, so that's going to be 1 momentum.
Yay.
And yeah, Morgan, anything wrong with you that we should be made aware of?
The whiskey is dulling his senses enough that he's not necessarily quite as nervous. But he just wants more, honestly. So, Doctor, is there any chance that I could get a little bit of this to go?
I believe per Starfleet regulations, no. Come see me after your duty shift, though.
That wasn't a request.
I think I can countermand your orders, sir. After all, your safety is my number 1 concern. If I feel you're unsafe, I can relieve you.
Of course, Doctor. Of course.
Thank you for
Good
coming
night.
to sick
Why
bay.
is my ship full of luscious, man?
All right, so
Glass in
I got
hand.
it.
Havoc, you go ahead.
All right, I knock on the door, not really softly, kind of like a slam with the palm of my hand. Hey, Doc, you in?
Yes, the doors are automatic. You can just walk closer to them and they open.
Door opens. I'd actually kicked my foot to make it so it would open, so I got the actual knocking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I knew that. I just wanted to make sure you were inside there. You could be anywhere on this damn ship. Got any
That
hard
is
stuff
true.
for me? That freaking piece of metal is making my head hurt.
The metal's affecting you.
No, it's more just trying to figure out exactly how to cut it. Nothing works.
Are you talking about your components or something else?
We picked up a piece of one of those planet killers.
Interesting. Commander, you're good to go.
I mean, the commander kind of like, thank you, Doctor. But he starts tiptoeing out the same way that he tiptoed in, and he actually exits the scene for the moment.
Uh, uh, Commander, please. Lieutenant Commander, please have a seat in my office. I'll go with my office. Oh, no, that's my name. And
There
I'll
we go.
rummage around for something, just looking at her. Going off her file, how much of her internals are left?
Stomach, intestines, liver are normal, but heart and lungs are not.
Alright. I'm going to pour a shot glass of Romulan ale. It's like, there you go.
I take it down it pretty quick.
And how have you been the last couple of days since you've been aboard the vessel?
Well, slightly lacking sleep. That the Vulcan keeps talking about hugs and binary in his sleep.
I didn't know Vulcans expressed themselves in sleep.
I didn't either.
Well, if you require a mild sedative, I'm sure I can prescribe you something. Any other difficulties sleeping caused by implants?
Left leg's been aching, but that's normal.
In what way?
Where the implant is, it's just phantom feeling. Nothing there.
Yeah, I can... Well, for phantom pain, there's only counseling that can help with that. We could do another scan of you, though, see if there is no minor infection at the implant sites.
Well, If you have the time, sure.
I always have the time. It's my job is to make sure all of you are taken care of. Would you like me to take a look now?
Sure.
Yeah, biobed, please.
Which bed?
It's typically the middle one. Eee. Yeah, I'll perform a scan.
All right. Another reason medicine, difficulty 0.
Can I assist?
Sure, why not? For you, it would be. I guess for you, it would be maybe presence plus con. And the reason I'm saying that is because depending on the result, there's going to be a reason for it, but I don't want to spoil it.
Focus would be cybernetics anatomy.
Yes.
So I have an available focus. Yay.
Oh, damn.
Okay. So here's what I'll say happens. You do a scan of Havoc's implants in the area around them, and at first everything looks fine. You're not seeing any infection, you're not seeing any problems, things of that nature. But maybe on a hunch, or maybe just because you do another sweep by, and you realize that one of those tiny little nodes, not as big as whatever that cortical thing that they had to replace on 7 of 9, but a node nonetheless. One of the nodes that handles the implant in question, the one that is phantom feeling, phantom pain, it is slightly out of phase with the rest of Havoc.
It looks like your interlink node is slightly out of alignment with your microconnectors. It's causing some interesting feedback within your systems. It's a minor operation. I'd say an
Can't I
hour or
just hit it
two at
with a
most.
hammer and put it back in place?
No, unfortunately not. You're a little more delicate, I want to say, than the equipment and engineering. I could make a micro hammer, but it would still be as precise as my other instruments.
Just fix it.
Very well. And I will go and operate.
Okay. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll say that Havoc and Galen are otherwise preoccupied as you guys arrive at your destination, unless anyone had any other scenes they wanted to do. Okay. In that case, you are going to arrive. So, with most of the senior staff back where they should be, you do arrive at the Frill system. Now, the Frill system, as you drop out of warp, you are able to very quickly determine that there are several planets in system. The one of importance is Frill Prime, as you might as well guessed. Frill Prime is a Class M. It's about 0.9 times bigger than Earth, smaller than Earth, so a little bit smaller. It has a bit of increased gravity than Earth, if it matters, 1.25 of standard G. Again, if it matters, a single day there's 32 hours, a year lasts 476 days, and most of the Frill populace is found near the equator and near bodies of water. And the planet itself has 3 Class D moons that orbit it, and Frill Prime itself orbits a blue sun in a elliptical fashion. Now, sensors are detecting a handful of vessels that match Frill design that are coming and going from the surface, but no one's really hailed you yet. And that's probably because, unless you've changed it without telling me, you are currently broadcasting a Starfleet IFF, and because the Frill were on good terms with the Lysithius crew, last you knew anyway. I would say the nearest sort of pulse point is a couple light years away.
we do have the proper frequency, so to speak, to talk with their control, correct?
Yep, you just have to tell me you're hailing them.
Yeah, so open a hail, announce our arrival.
All right. So Zava opens a channel and says, "Channel open, sir."
Any station, any station. This is the Adiona, Captain Williams speaking. Is there anybody on this frequency? Over.
So on the view screen, you do see a Frill, and I actually have a handout for you. So this is basically what you're looking at. They are a rather tall species, and as you can see, they do kind of look like their Friqua ancestors, if any of you were familiar with those. Other than that, just pretty much your standard humanoid. I would say probably the most interesting or striking feature, at least to me, is the fact that they have a sort of black sclera, or you know how usually there's white to the eyes, it's black. But yeah, that's what you kind of see on screen. It is a gentleman, actually. And the gentleman says, "This is Adjunct Redeus. Hello, Captain Williams. We've been expecting you."
Hey, good to see you. Do you have a location for us to bed down? We have some business on plan.
Well, sir, I do have a message here from the Consulate General. And just as a reminder, add a character. You were told by Beckett that the Consulate General was who you wanted to talk to. But yeah, that's what he says. He says he has a message from her for you.
All right. Recorded, or are they awaiting us?
Literally a verbal instruction, and he pulls out a pad and sort of looks at it to make sure he's telling you the right thing. She expresses her condolences that she's not able to meet with you at this current time. She is needed elsewhere in the Empire. However, she has taken the liberty of arranging for one of her people, or not one of her people, one of us to stand by should you want a guide for the Andromeda Galaxy.
Her name was Samisa?
Samisa, yes.
Alrighty. Do you know where that individual is currently?
Yes, in fact, Iha is standing by in her shuttle, waiting for either orders to stand down or orders to rendezvous with the Adiona.
I'll check with whoever is on ops duty. It's like, do we have room for an additional shuttle in the shuttle bay?
Do we?
You do. It's going to be a bit of a, I guess, cramped nature, but you could probably fit another one in there.
Open the doors.
Alrighty. Yes. Do you have the call sign for that shuttle? We'll go ahead and arrange for rendezvous with them.
Yes, it is, and gives a name. I didn't name the shuttle because I never name shuttles because they end up blowing up half the time.
No, that's fine. They'd probably just have a working call sign anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, they give the call sign, and the adjunct says, yes, she is headed your way immediately. Hopefully this doesn't come across as rude, Captain. I'm sure you maybe had plans to stop on by and, maybe see the sights, but may not look it out there, but we're kind of in the middle of some rather, I would say, important work at the moment.
Anything we should be aware of?
He hums and haws and says, honestly, well, you're new here. Have you heard of the Toth before?
I'll remind the captain. The Toth is the aggressive species, expansionistic, that the Lysithia had run into.
Yes, we have heard a few words about the Toth.
Well, again, I don't know quite the details of what the Consulate General is handling at the moment, but my understanding is that there is some sort of, I guess you would call it, a skirmish that is occurring a few light years away from here, and we're trying to make sure that the situation does not escalate.
All right. I'll mute the channel for a moment.
Okay.
Hey, XO, what's the status of us assisting these folks officially? So are you
Well,
in character and out of character?
I believe that at least, besides, I mean, we're on relatively friendly terms with these people, so it didn't necessarily be so much of an issue as long as we try not necessarily to get involved in their conflict. We could take a diplomatic approach to it at first.
True, oversight
Trying to-
shouldn't be that big of a deal, right?
Right. Try to mediate instead of, being charging in with phasers.
Oh no, I'm not looking to get involved. This is a small ship after all. But however,
Right.
if they are involved with something, our sensors could provide oversight on the situation and maybe calm things.
That's correct.
All right. I'll unmute the channel.
Mm-hmm.
If we aren't opposed to possibly providing oversight on the situation, should it be required?
Redeus kind of thinks for a moment and says, "Give me a moment, Captain." And it's his turn to mute it. And, you get the equivalent of whatever the Frill waiting symbol would be, whatever the symbol
Girl from
of their
Ipanema,
empire
it's a
is.
galaxy standard.
Yeah. And he's gone for maybe a minute, and then he comes back and says, "I do have permission from the Consulate General to pass along these set of coordinates. I will say, though, that the Consul General also said, Captain, that..." And he does sigh and kind of pauses and says, "Try not to displease or otherwise insult the Toth."
Oh, we don't plan on getting directly involved unless absolutely necessary. We're just trying to provide a third eye so that way no shenanigans go on, should somebody be thinking about it.
"Oh, no, I understand, and so does the Consulate General, but the Toth have a funny way of thinking sometimes."
We will take that under advisement. As soon as we get the shuttlecraft aboard, we'll probably set our way out there if we can get a generic waypoint for us.
I've gone ahead and transmitted the coordinates to Iha. She should be able to give you those coordinates right away.
Very well. Good day to you.
And to you. And, comm goes dark.
Alrighty, folks. Looks like we got some scanning to do. Science officer, make sure our scanners are ready to go at the highest resolution possible.
Let's see. I would say it is approximately 2 light years from here. So, maximum warp, I think off the top of my head, couple of hours. I'll check real fast. Let's see, 9.975, distance, light years, 2 light years, time. Yeah, it's about 4 hours away at maximum warp.
Yeah, let's use a warp. Let's not use the QSD unless we absolutely have to.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mayweather. As soon as we get the coordinates in position, head out there, warp 7.
Warp 7, aye, sir.
All right, and meanwhile, as soon as that shuttlecraft is docked, I'll go down and meet them as they get off.
Okay. All right.
XO, you have the con.
Aye, sir.
All right, so bear with me because I've got to go across several screens here. And shuttle bay. All right, so Captain, you arrive in the shuttle bay, and
I'll bring 2 security guards with me as a presentation, not armed, but just as an an escort, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah, and Zava would have asked if you wanted anyone before you left the bridge, but I got
Yeah,
you.
just 2 guards.
Okay. So yeah, stepping out of her shuttle, you do see another Fryla, very similar to the handout I showed you. Big difference here is she's got white hair, slightly paler skin, and same black sclera, and I would say striking blue eyes. She steps out of her shuttle's ramp, looks around, spots you, walks over, and says, "Captain Williams, it is a pleasure to meet you. I am known as Iha."
Aha, pleasure to meet you.
I understand you wish to provide oversight on the Toth situation.
Well, considering you are the stand-in for the person we are supposed to meet, it would be good to make sure that that person does arrive safely if we can assist with in some capacity, considering your guys' history with who she's meeting with.
It's a fair point, though one small correction, Captain. I am to be your guide for this section of the Andromeda Galaxy, should you so wish it.
Oh, I have no problem with that at all.
Wonderful. In that case, shall we begin right away?
Of course, this way.
All right. And I'm assuming you take her back up to the bridge?
Correct.
All right. Again, bear with me as I wish there was a way to scroll a little bit easier in Roll20, but such as it is. And boom. And we'll say she'll sit over here for the time being. So yeah, you walk back onto the bridge, and Iha follows in your footsteps. She kind of takes a look around and goes, it's bigger than I thought. I expected a ship this small to have something, well, smaller.
Well, we like to keep things a bit discreet when we don't need too much room to move around in. Uh, this is my XO, Commander Morgan, Lieutenant Zava on tactical, Lieutenant Merrick, my science officer, and our helmsman, Lieutenant Merriweather.
She kind of waves to everyone and says, yes, I am Iha. It is a pleasure to meet you all.
The feeling is safe.
Mayweather, do you have those coordinates already laid in?
If we got them, I thought they said Iha was supposed to give them to us.
Yeah, so Iha says, oh, right, sorry. She walks in over, kind of leans over you, and puts in some coordinates and says, there you go.
Ready whenever you are, sir.
All ahead full.
GM question. She's already familiar with Federation technology then, or it's
Yes.
just...
I would say she not only, it's not just because Elcars is supposed to be inherently intuitive, but she is showing familiarity with Starfleet protocol and operation.
Okay, interesting. So I'll bring that up to her. I'll just say, Iha, seems you have already worked with Federation technology. Did you know the crew of the Lysithia?
Yes, in fact, myself and my twin sister were instrumental in assisting their mapping of the area.
Very good. I look forward to discussing what knowledge you wish to share with us.
Huh? We have, I think, about 4 to 5 hours before we arrive at the hot zone, so unless you have anything, Captain, and she just kind of turns and looks.
No, if we're ready to go, all ahead full, Mr. Mayweather.
Yeah.
I got to work on a new catchphrase instead of engage. It's just borrowed too easily.
Nah, I gotcha. So yeah, what we're gonna say is, Mayweather, you of course push the shiny red button, and the Adiona does jump to warp. And we are going to take our break here. So be back, we'll say no later than 9:55 p.m. Eastern Daily. All right, so BRB, everyone.
Alrighty, 10 minutes.
Alright, unmuted for the stream at least. So, of course, thank you guys for taking the time to watch our little game here. Hopefully you're having a good time, as hopefully the rest of the guys are. Just a small little bit of shilling for my Twitch channel. It's ELHMK1 over there on Twitch. If you're not already following and subscribing, I would love it if you did. But of course, it is never required to enjoy my streams. The only other thing I have to mention is that, of course, at the top of the session I did mention, the Ophion has a opening. There is the potential for another opening in Arcadia, but I will have more information on that coming Sunday. On that, again, thank you for watching, and I'm going to mute myself for the rest of the guys. Alright, I'm back.
I'm here too.
I have returned.
Welcome back. So now I'm curious what Galen's going to do now that he's gotten every member of the senior staff into the physical.
Well, since I have surgery as part of my focus, I can all just do a little operation to make them think the way I think. Perfect. I can make them all understand my values.
Oh, God.
I still can't believe I gave them a direct order. They still hesitated, man.
I think, I'm trying to remember what it's called. Is it white coat syndrome? I'll look it up.
I figure the doctor, he'll just use subliminal messages and everything we see will be, his message.
Ah, it is white coat syndrome, also known as latrophobia.
Now, what is that?
Latrophobia
people in white coats?
is fear of doctors.
There we go.
I know
Updated
because-
my medical files.
Yeah, I know because for a while there in my teenage years, I had white coat syndrome, and every time I'd go to the doctor's office, even if I, had no problem going, my blood pressure would spike tremendously.
I was fine with doctors as a kid. Nurses, on the other hand, annoy me. For the simple fact that one stuck a needle in bone.
Ooh.
And then they had to get the medical pliers to pull it out.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Were you fighting her or something?
No. I guess
Just get that overhand stab in the neck or something?
No, it was in the elbow. They were trying to do a diabetes test, and she went right into the side of the elbow, like that. Where the arm connects, that little hinge part, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuck it right in that.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it like, how did you get that far in? You missed the vein. I'm just looking at her, and the other nurse came like, "Oh, she's our new nurse," and I was like, "Get out."
Hey, you
So-
gotta practice somehow.
So, did she say at least, oops?
No, I heard, after I felt blinding pain for a split second, I was like, what is that? I watched a couple leave after they realized what was happening to me, because 3 people were surrounding me.
Yeah, doctor's offices are weird like that.
Can you pass me the medical pliers? They're called pliers. Why did you add medical to them?
Because
So-
they've been sterilized.
Yeah,
Something on a tangent, real quick. How many of you had dogs? Or,
I have an Akita.
well, I don't have a dog right now, but I swear she had a sixth sense. Just getting into the car, she knew she was going to the vet sometimes.
Mine has sort of the same way, but her thing is walks. Whenever I go near a leash in a certain way, she automatically knows that it's time for a walk. It's great. Alright, well, we got another 3-4 minutes to kill before we start up again.
Slowly adding more to my CMO notes.
I did notice that, yeah.
By the way, you mentioned like a mini map.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to have help supporting that, you can get with me.
Yeah, I would, I usually don't do mini maps, simply because I am terrible when it comes to map making. That's kind of why I let Jester David do the one for Ophion, because he does a bang-up job of it. So if you want to do one of those for the Adiona group here, I certainly will support you in whatever way I can.
Okay, just explain what we want to do with it eventually.
I mean, if you're familiar with the Ophion's thing, I'll throw it actually in Discord. Let's see. I think this is the most up-to-date one.
What makes me nervous about this bridge is the two consoles next to either side of the captain. They are held with what I only assume looks like measuring tape.
No, they're a bit more sterner stuff. But yeah, that sort of map that I just put in Discord, that's kind of what I'd like to see. But obviously, if you've got a better style or idea for how to do that sort of thing, be my guest.
Okay, well, attempt it. Looks like he started on the basis of the Milky Way map, though, so we'll have a fresh map.
Yeah, that's the other challenge, is there's not really a set in stone map for the Andromeda Galaxy unless you want to steal from Mass Effect.
If you want to develop symbols for these different cultures, that's up to you.
Oh yeah, I'll get you a symbol, some sort of symbology. Well, did Morgan say anything before he dropped, or?
I think he usually does that when it's BI back.
Okay. Alright, well, I tell you what, let's give him another minute or so, and then we'll start right back up.
I am back.
Hey, welcome back.
I am Batman.
Batman.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, you missed our doctor discussion. Alright,
Does it include having the doctor double as a torturer?
no, we did not talk about Renaissance doctors. Well, I guess kind of in Galen's case it was semi-torture, but it wasn't intentional.
Plus, he is kind of a Renaissance doctor, considering he's using alcohol for general anesthetic use.
Nah, I got a new nickname for him, the Inquisition.
Do I detect heresy?
I've been summoned. What's the mutiny going on here?
No, there's just heresy. Heresy everywhere.
Great. You mean we jump from normal space to the Imperium of Man in the Andromeda Galaxy?
Yes, this is secretly the Imperium of Man. The God Emperor of mankind sits on the golden throne. All that lovely jazz.
Damn it,
Suddenly,
Q.
we see a Tyranid high fleet fly in front of us. Oh no.
Oh god. No, I wouldn't do that to you guys. Maybe for like a silly April Fool's or a one-off Mirrorverse type thing, but... okay, well, everyone's back, I think. So let's just go ahead and get right back to it. So, as I said, it's about a 4 to 5 hour journey between your past location and where this skirmish of sorts is happening. So again, there is an opportunity for RP if any of you had any particular scenes. And again, if you don't have any, we will just skip ahead.
Just making sure a spare quarters check for Zava, since we're taking in personnel, trying to keep track of how many rooms we still got that are unused.
Well, sir, looking at the current quartermaster report, we do have one. No, that's not right. She kind of bites her lower lip and presses a few buttons. That was odd. We have 2 VIP rooms available, sir, that are about the same as your quarters. And after that, we have 2 regular rooms open.
Alrighty. Well, she's obviously getting the VIP. Just want to keep track of how many of those rooms we still have available.
That's understandable, sir. Miss Iha, if you would follow me. And Iha says, of course, lead the way. And both of them depart for the time being.
Alrighty. Get one of the engines on tactical for now.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, what are you guys doing for the 4 to 5 hours, if anything in particular?
If anything, I'm going to be reading reports in
Busy.
my ready room.
Busy work, recording, stuff like that.
I would like to go down to engineering and look at the Neutronium bits and pieces we got off the planet killers when we first entered here.
Sure. There you go.
It's also bonding time with my chief engineer.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you walk into engineering.
Family show.
Yeah. I imagine you walk into engineering, and kind of similar to how they do it in TNG, there's just an open area where, I guess on a pedestal of sorts, or maybe the grav lift itself, sits the chunk of Neutronium. And unless Havoc does not want to be there, I would probably guess that Havoc is probably fawning over the thing, trying to learn its secrets.
She's trying to cut it.
You see all my manner of devices trying to cut through that damn thing, and with me getting more and more annoyed with each failure. If I can just find what cuts through it, I can find out if it can what it can withstand.
And as Morgan approaches her, isn't that kind of the point of Neutronium? It's pretty durable. It's thick stuff.
I will eventually find a way to break through this damn thing.
Oh, of that I have absolutely no doubt.
At this point, you see me just take a sledgehammer to it.
There's a loud Kong as you hit it with the sledgehammer, but chunk, I would actually probably say that a nice chunk comes out of the sledgehammer.
I would say the sledgehammer just straight up breaks in half.
That could happen too.
I mean, you do realize that we still need the rest of engineering for the rest of the ship, right?
No, I'm the only one trying to break this thing open. The rest of engineering is doing their jobs.
I mean in terms of the sledgehammer breaks and it goes flying across the rest of the engineering section. So I say that in jest. No, we don't damage the rest of the components. We still need engineering.
That was just to see if percussive maintenance would work against this thing.
Of course. Well, honestly, let me see if I can give you a little bit of help with that. Because Morgan does have a focus of polymer replication.
Well, that is an interesting focus to have that's coming into play. I like it.
It is. And so,
I guess my question for you is, are you analyzing it, or are you actively trying to do something to the sample?
I'm actively trying to manipulate the sample.
Okay, in that case, and of course you can argue for a different combination, I'm inclined to say that this is going to be a daring plus engineering, and of course your focus would apply. I would make the difficulty of 5 because it is Neutronium and it's kind of a big deal.
All right then. Could I at least get the chief to do the roll and then just assist them with an additional science check?
I would say yes, that could, but I would not let Havoc get the engineering team advantage they get usually as being chief engineer. So instead of, dropping it down to 4, it would stay at a 5.
I see.
And you do have 1 momentum you guys could spend at the moment. And remember, you can also give me threat in lieu of momentum for extra dice. You could also spend determination for 2 free successes right off the bat, or a reroll if you so wished.
Small question.
Mm-hmm.
I would get a focus from either ancient technology or xenotechnology. Sorry if I cut out. Ancient technology or xenotechnology from this, right? Just for rules?
I would say ancient technology would apply best.
Okay. So it would be control engineering, correct?
Daring engineering, actually.
Daring.
Because you're working in an unorthodox manner to try and do what you will with the sample.
And so because you said this is 4 difficulty, this is 3d20?
It's 5 difficulty.
5 difficulty.
And base, you always roll 2. If you want to roll 3, 4, or 5 dice, you gotta give me either momentum or threat.
Okay, well, we'll spend a few points of momentum.
Okay, so it's 1 momentum for 1 die, 3 momentum for 2 die, and 6 momentum for 3 die.
We'll just use 1.
Okay. And are you going to be doing that roll, or is that going to Havoc's roll?
We'll give that to Havoc.
Okay.
So 3d20 with focus on.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. And then Morgan, you are rolling a single dice because you are assisting. I will say, just as an observation, if you were to spend your determination here, you would get the prerequisite successes.
I'll do
Wait a
so.
second. Allow me to activate my determination because I have a value of you can always learn something new from old tech, and we are definitely trying to learn something new from old tech.
Mm-hmm.
So can I change that 0 to an auto success?
You could re-roll it, but unfortunately the only way you get the 2 initial successes is if you declare it before the roll.
Fair enough. But I'll fire out my determination again, reroll. I also have I have veteran, so I'll actually have a chance to get it back.
Okay, let's resolve that before Morgan does his roll.
So it's more daring, engineering, 1d20 focus.
Nice.
Hey!
Nice. And then, I think you roll a challenge dice, and if you get an effect, you keep the determination. I think.
Yeah, that's what it is. Oop, you lost it.
Yeah, no determination for you. So, Morgan, still do your roll, because that could be some momentum. Alright, look at that. You guys have 1 momentum again. So, normally I would do the technobabble myself, but I'm going to let you guys come up with it on your own, because this is, you have found a way to, I guess, take a smaller sample from the larger chunk, but I will say that whatever method you come up with is a very time-consuming thing. It's not like a laser scalpel where you just kind of run it over and have an instant sample.
Okay then. Well, unless our chief wants to go with it, I'd probably say something along the lines of no matter the tools that we attempted to use in the beginning didn't necessarily work, attempting to, in a sense, flash freeze the molecular structure of the neutronium for a brief second actually just allowed us to break off a piece of it, enough so that we could study further.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially freezing the neutrons there, which stopped them from moving, allowed us to break it effectively.
Okay.
Thus, technically, if given enough time, I could make a larger scale version of this, but we don't have that time.
Or the materials.
Yeah. Given time materials, I could possibly make a gun out of this, but we have neither of those.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, with that many successes, I'm gonna say yeah, you now have a whatever size sample that you could then mess with.
Can we think of it in
Do we?
terms? Can we think of it in terms of like a diamond?
Um, yeah, diamond's actually a rather good comparison. Just imagine that diamond was made out of stuff from a neutron star.
Do we still have that bit of radiation?
You would have to go to sickbay for it, but unless the doctor threw it out, I think he'd still have it.
I don't. With this small sample, we could actually test it against the radiation to see what the effects are.
Completely plausible, and I like the idea.
All right. Well, Galen, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Would you have gotten rid of the radiation sample, or would you have kept it?
I would have kept this whatever did not get consumed up by the nanites.
Okay. I would say it would be enough for a small, short burst.
That's definitely enough.
All right.
So, in the usual Mari fashion, I just grab Commander Morgan by the scuff of his neck and start dragging him towards the sick bay.
All right. Return to sickbay. And let's see. There's Morgan. All right. You two arrive back in sickbay.
All the hypo sprays are back out.
Again, I was keeping a firm grip on the cuff of his shirt and kind of just dragging him behind me, not even letting him walk.
Oh, God.
This is highly improper, Lieutenant Commander.
We have to get there quick, and now you notice that you don't like the sick bay.
I like a lot of things, just not this place.
The hypo sprays are back.
Just not anything in this place. Except you, Doctor, of course.
Well,
Welcome
toughen up, Buttercup.
back.
We're gonna have to test something.
Welcome back. What can I do for you?
You got that radiation still around?
Yes.
I take the piece of Neutronium and show it to him. We're gonna need to test that on this.
I'll go grab the canister and hand it to them.
You have acquired 1 canister. Yay!
All right, so I don't think I don't think girl who tests this stuff. So how exactly do we do this?
Well, you take it to the science lab, presumably.
This is true. Meet us there.
Besides,
Go
ahead.
I drag Morgan. I drag the guy along with me, not the hologram, but the unfortunate redhead.
I gotcha. I find it funny.
Your commanding officer.
All right, so
If
there's
someone
Morgan.
draws that, I will actually start laughing.
Oh, God. All right, so there's the 2 of you. Doctor, would you have gone with them?
No?
Okay. No, that's fair. I would assume Merrick is probably in there doing some work. So, yeah, you guys walk on in and I'll let you play your scene.
So I drag Commander Morgan and say, Merrick, I need some of your time.
Certainly, Lieutenant Commander.
I show
I see she's carrying a container.
and the Neutronium and also the Commander Morgan by the scruff of his neck. Well, scruff of his shirt.
What do you have in mind, Commander?
This is a piece of that, well, world killer we found. I want to test this radiation on, see what it does.
Okay, I understand. Have you studied neutronium in the records?
A little. We found a way to break it, though, all honesty, I tried every single method under the sun.
Well, my understanding of neutronium is it's not normally a stable substance. It's highly unusual to be able to form it into this stable shape.
Yes, which is why we got a big hunk of it, and we are trying to figure out how it works so we can use it to our benefit.
So you wish to expose it to the radiation to see what effect it would have on the neutronium if it just falls apart or releases its energy, or
Just call it a hunch.
It-
There,
Just because we saw so many there, we're guessing there's going to be an odd effect on the radiation with the neutronium.
okay, so we'll begin a controlled experiment, GM. You know, proper lab safeties, reinforcements, and a controlled
Goggles on!
yeah, basically a controlled feeding of the radiation against the neutronium sample.
Yeah, I imagine we use this little bit of containment over here in the corner. And yeah, you set up a radiation test on the neutronium substance. How do I want to say this? Roll me, well, one of you, roll me a 1d100, please.
Havoc's idea.
Yep. So Havoc, go ahead and roll me a 1d100.
You are putting far too much trust in my luck, but let's go.
Okay. So you're looking at the readouts as the piece of neutronium is bombarded by this delta radiation, and you're seeing that up to 98.8% of radiation is being absorbed by the neutronium. And interestingly, it is seemingly storing that energy in some way, shape, or form, almost like a capacitor does with electricity.
I understand. We discussed it.
That's a bit dangerous.
So, how do we release this energy? Any thoughts, gentlemen? Commander?
Well, if it's storing it up like a capacitor, that means there's a limit. And if it reaches that limit, we're going to have a bomb on our hands, so this is not good at all.
We should try to set up some kind of experiment that would extract the energy then. What kind of energy do we think it is, GM? I mean, can we classify it?
If you want to roll me a reason, or not a reason, an insight plus science or an insight plus engineering, and of course Morgan and Havoc can assist with science or engineering themselves. I'm going to make this a difficulty 4.
Who's doing the roll?
I assume I am right now.
Yeah, I would say Merrick is probably taking the lead on this.
I'll use one momentum.
Okay.
What's the benefit of... there's no benefit for me actually being in the lab. I just have the SO benefit, right?
Correct.
May I assist?
Yeah, you both can assist.
wonderful. Let's see how this goes.
So what discipline?
It is going to be insight science or insight engineering.
And can we apply like quantum mechanics or, again, experimental theoretical physics?
I will give you either one of those. Okay, well,
So-
Merrick has an epiphany on his own, but let's see what the other two roll. Okay. So, Morgan and Merrick, you're kind of looking at this thing, looking at the data, and how do I want to say this?
Well, like I said, I classify it. There's like kinetic energy, energy like electricity.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to
Sound,
say this
heat.
without spoiling the mystery. Merrick,
Heat is
you've
an energy.
Yeah, Merrick, you've seen this sort of energy storage before. in a different way. It was a very brief glimpse in sickbay, but whatever the doctor was doing before you walked in, like long ago, not like right before this, whatever the doctor was doing in sickbay is somehow related to this.
I understand. Without recalling it myself directly, I bring the doctor up on comm and ask him to join us in the Psi lab.
Zoop.
Boop.
Boop.
Doctor, please look at this sample of energy that's being stored currently in the neutronium due to the radiation exposure. Does it remind you of anything?
What does it remind me of, GM?
You know that whole Andromeda nanomachine thing we did?
Ah, the nanomachines.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Interesting. They seem to have the same capacity to absorb or consume the radiation, same as Andromeda.
So what you're saying is Andromeda is filled with this crap.
If that's a term you wish to use.
If she is exposed. She has not been exposed, only a sample of her blood, I guess, at this point. Correct, Doctor?
What was exposed was consumed, not stored, though. Similar process. I'm assuming that whatever her armor is made of is similar in design to whatever this came from. Could be a cousin, a relative, or something completely different. But it looks like this stores where she consumes.
Commander Morgan, this is significant. Do we want to inform the captain?
I believe it's necessary at this point, considering it involves our VIP guests and a bunch of unsolved mysteries at this point.
Are we going to even alert Andromeda to this?
No, not yet. Not at the moment. So,
Any particular reason why we shouldn't?
well, out of character, Morgan, again, still doesn't necessarily trust Andromeda. However, in character, Morgan will say, unless you believe that it's going to be a potential hazard or health risk in the immediate future, Doctor, I'd still just like to explore this as we are now.
We have only observations, no conclusions, for sure.
Very well. Keep me informed once you do have a conclusion. But if it's something
I will-
pertaining to her health, I would like to know immediately.
I want to speak up a little. Andromeda keeps on mentioning that she doesn't remember anything. Maybe this could trigger her memory.
Potentially. But let's see what the captain thinks first. You've all done great work here.
I'll transfer back to sickbay.
Boop.
So, Morgan to captain.
Go ahead, Morgan.
We found something uniquely interesting. Would you please come to the science lab?
Alright, on my way.
Everyone knows I still haven't let go of Morgan's collar.
At this
So-
point,
So I'm
even though
gonna
it's
do
quite
that right now.
at this point, even though it's quite embarrassing, he somehow just accepted it. He's not over sickbay.
Yeah, I finally just let go of him. Kind of just realizing, wait a second, I should have done this a long time ago.
Just imagining what the hell Merrick's interpretation of that is, but who knows. Alright, so, 5-10 minutes pass, and in walks the captain.
Alrighty, folks, show me what you got.
I think you'd be uniquely impressed, Captain. Let's light him up.
Alright. So, Captain, you see and experience firsthand everything that just happened.
Yeah, to refresh my understanding, basically they got the material acting as if it's feeding off of the radiation that's outside the ship, right?
Correct.
Not feeding, storing it, like a capacitor.
Feeding would still be a applicable word, I would think.
So it's converting it.
Yeah, it's converting the radiation into a usable energy and storing it. Yes.
Alrighty. So if it's storing the energy, do we know what our limits are yet?
Negative.
We could incrementally increase stage by stage and try to make measurements.
That being said, if we actually go over the limit, we could have a bomb on our hands. I don't think we want a bomb on the ship now, do we?
Out of character for you electronic experts. What happens if you push a capacitor too far?
It blows.
It melts.
Or blows, depending on how far and how quickly you do it.
That's why I'm just thinking if we just spoon feed it, as it were, try to limit the pop.
Well, terrestrial-wise, the problem with storing energy is heat buildup in the process because you always lose something whenever you transfer. So if this thing is just eating and eating energy, if we can't keep track of what it's getting or how quickly it's coming in, and since we don't know what its upper limit is, it could potentially blow. So out
Well,
of
as I
character, I'd
mentioned,
suggest, yeah, there'll be like a small sample set aside and constantly charging it until we find out what the upper limit is. And if we actually are able to record that, then we have our basis.
my understanding of neutronium is it's generally unstable. So maybe as we introduced it to more of this radiation, it would show aspects of becoming unstable before it actually was unstable.
True, or you might find the one energy that actually makes it stable. So until we do it, we won't know.
Yeah.
So how would you like to proceed, Captain?
I know my regulations. I definitely don't want a bomb on the ship. We want to keep the sample size small enough so that way it can still be contained within a safety field. So, Sunstuff, I'll let you crunch the numbers on that, but that's my guidelines. I want to know what the upper limit on this thing is, and I want it done in a safe manner so that way if something does happen, we don't damage all this stuff. We're not going to get anything in this bay fixed anytime soon.
Another approach would perhaps be to attempt a method of extracting what energy is in it now. Any thoughts on that, Lieutenant Commander? Can we utilize the energy or channel it at this point?
Out
It
of
does-
character, would I actually know this?
No, this is all extremely new to you. So, I mean, if you, as a person, have Technobabble on hand, you can go for it. But otherwise, I'm going to say probably not.
There's no microcircuitry or anything, right? But the structure has the substance has a structure. Does that make any sense? Like polarity or such.
Yeah, it does make some sense, but you have to remember that even in a small sample like this, the fact you're getting any data back from it is outstanding. Because normally, no matter what you do with Neutronium, you can't scan through it.
Very true.
I would give shrug and say I have no idea if we could use this energy or even make it work for us at this point. We're gonna have to run lots of tests, and this research could take years. But the fact that we've been able to even get this much out of this, I'd say we would go down in notice of history book somewhere for this.
Point of note, XL, if this experiment is as groundbreaking as I think it is, I want to see if you can enter into a protocol into the ship's black box to kind of store this information. Should something catastrophic happen to us, at least the data is maintained.
Understood, Captain.
Anything in the Lasithia records to help us?
No, because if I know Beckett like I think I do, he would have stayed the hell away from those things.
Yeah, that's true.
You mean from the derelict, the derelict planet killers?
Yep.
Well, this is our first time dealing with it. We don't have experience to guide us.
Another approach might be to expose the radiation to other known substances and see how they react. Beside neutronium.
Well, unless you have anything else for me, Exo, just don't let them blow up the ship. I'm going to go back to my notes. I want to get brushed up before we meet up with this altercation out in space.
So I think I think we can end it here, but basically I'd begin sort of planning out a design of experiments.
I gotcha. I'll make a note of it to do an extended test later. But actually, Captain, as you start to exit the lab, you get a communication, and it is the following. Iha to Captain Williams.
This is the captain. Go ahead.
Well, Captain, if you and maybe your first officer and whoever else you would find prudent to bring along, I do have a small bit of primer on the Toth here in the holodeck.
Alrighty. Captain to senior staff. Meet me in holodeck, whatever.
Okay. So all the senior staff, or
All the senior staff.
all the senior staff? All right. Let me just...
And in fact, I'm going to make a special allowance for Andromeda too.
All right.
And we make sure that this is all stored away, right? Proper.
yeah. You would have done proper containment. And...
Yeah, I don't need SFOsh getting on me for having unsafe conditions on the ship.
All right.
Goddamn
So
occupational health.
Oh God, not OSHA. So yeah, we cut to the holodeck where Iha is waiting for everyone, and she says, "Well, this is quite the crowd. Hello, everyone."
Iha, if you'll humor me, since this is pretty much the majority of my senior staff and the other special guests that we have on board, since we're going to be pretty much helming everything going on, I want everybody up to speed on what you're going to be sharing with us firsthand.
Oh, I don't have a problem with it. I just didn't expect so many people. She shrugs and says, "Anyway, to business. Computer, please run program IHA 72, please." Computer beeps, and before you materializes a 3D, quote-unquote flesh and blood representation of a Toth, and I do have another handout. So, that is basically what a Toth looks like. As you can see, they are vaguely humanoid. They do seem to have some sort of reptilian design for their heads and their hands. But that's more or less what you're looking at here. And Iha just sort of starts walking around it and listing off facts. And she starts off by saying, this is the standard Toth, I guess you would call them warrior. Their tongue is not something that I can pronounce, but this standard warrior is comparable to your Klingon in that they have all manner of redundant systems. They have the capability of some regeneration, not as much as I think they're called the Borg in your galaxy.
The Borg don't regenerate; they just replace pieces.
Well, these Toth can regenerate somewhat. Obviously, they can't withstand losing a full limb, but something small like a finger or an eye or something along those lines could be regenerated. Also, you will note that they have rather thick skin. I'm not entirely sure if Federation or Starfleet disruptors can pierce them. You may wish to investigate that further, though not like I have the data on that on hand, unfortunately, so you'd need a live test subject, and I don't even want to think about how you'd go about doing that. The other thing to note is that they are rather agile, though they may not look it. I've seen one cross this entire room within not even a second at their top speed. They are, to be blunt, rather nasty kind of species, and I'm sure you've already been told this, but very confrontational, very territorial, and just not very pleasant to be around.
Lovely.
Could you discuss their culture as far as like leadership?
They have what I understand is a council of warriors. Again, very similar to your Klingons. The resemblance or the similarities are almost uncanny, though I suppose for species that are so militaristic, it's not that far out of the question for them to develop along the same lines. As far as I'm aware, they sort of. She thinks for a moment. I think the word is caste in your word, in your language. They have a pseudo caste system where the warriors are considered the quote unquote middle caste, while scientists are the lower, and the triumphant warriors are elevated to a higher caste.
Interesting.
So they are collectively territorial. Are they individually territorial or in some kind of, say, family groups?
Based on what little we know, which is surprisingly little based on our proximity to our quote unquote friends, what I know is that they will fiercely defend even the smallest molehill if you let them do it.
Well, you made comparisons to the Klingons, and the Klingons follow um, a family culture where they might even fight amongst themselves.
Oh, I see. That I don't know. Like again, I personally have not had much contact with the Toth, and we Fryla do try to avoid confrontation with them.
They sound a bit also like the Gorn.
Can't say I'm familiar with the Gorn, but I'm sure it's probably a good comparison.
So, has there ever been a situation where the Toth themselves have made contact in a way outside of combat?
No. It's pretty much been either we're just minding our own business and one shows up and starts going on about how we're in their territory, or them just sort of showing up and reminding us that they're there, but no really prolonged or protracted conversations.
Can you speak a little bit more about the hierarchical structure on board their ship?
From what little we know, they are run in a manner that is similar to your Dominion, in that the warrior caste is the grunt work, while a higher caste member basically acts as a living conduit for the ship's data to the rest of the crew.
Although this may be unlikely, do they have titles?
If they do, it's not something we've been able to translate.
What do we know about their technology? Is it bio in nature at all, or is it strictly artificial technology like what we're using on our ship?
Yes, it is definitely artificial in construction. If I had to qualify it, they are. Well, let me ask this, Captain. How much do you know about most species here in Andromeda? I'm guessing not a whole lot, but I wanted to be sure.
Basically, all I have is reports so far.
Well, to put it bluntly, Andromeda is not necessarily the nicest place in the world. Though we Fryla are, I would say, probably one of the most approachable and cheerful species out there in this galaxy. The rest of the species that you're going to see out here are going to be very similar in nature to the Toth. In that I mean they're scavengers, they're territorial, and they're just not the kind of people that you could start a conversation with just because you're passing by.
I ask her to replicate if she can some of their weaponry. You know, at least physical aspects of it.
Of course. And she
And I
oh, go ahead.
I hand one of the guns to Havoc, of course.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing I'll say is that their weaponry is projectile based, and I think I've had people play Mass Effect in here, so if you're at all familiar with how Mass Effect guns work, It's the same similar principle where it shaves off this tiny, minute, like sand grain size particle from a larger block of material, and then accelerates that to high speeds using, in this case, warp fields, where mass effected is the mass effect fields.
Sounds older.
Yeah, kinda.
Freaking space elves.
So I raised my hand a little bit slowly just to get the attention of the person.
Yeah,
And
Iha looks over to you and says, yes, Havoc, I think, yes?
how effective is, say, I don't believe you've ever had the displeasure of being at the receiving end of this, but say old human technology such as a revolver.
Are revolvers energy or projectile based?
Projectile.
Oh,
Actually, computer, synthesize one M9 FS Beretta, please, with ammunition.
all right. Materializes.
And I'll show her one of these. It's very, very old technology, but a hole in something still works.
She kind of inspects it, hand on her chin, and says, not quite supersonic levels of projectile, but I suppose with gunpowder providing the explosion, it's very crude.
Computer, synthesize target.
All right. Computer,
About
of course, materializes a target downrange.
It's like, Phil, go ahead and give it a shot.
Oh, certainly. She takes it, lines it up, and she shows I wouldn't say a innate familiarity with the weapon, but you get the sense just looking at her that she's handled projectile weapons before, in that she's not a day one novice that isn't expecting a kickback or some kind of recoil. She seems to handle the weapon with that in mind. So when she does fire, it doesn't go flying back and hit her in the face or things of that nature. And we'll say that she doesn't obviously hit bullseye, but she hits somewhere in the outer ring and says, quite inaccurate as well. But that might just be me.
Well, considering this is pretty old, but this is the basic gist of what I was getting at. Basically, a high-tech version of these same types of weapons, correct?
That is correct. I'm not quite sure if old tech like this, old projectiles, would pierce Toth's skin, but considering how projectile weaponry in general seems to be the best way to dealing with them, I guess I would recommend maybe replicating a few of these older weapons. Or she snaps her fingers. You know what? I completely forgot. I have a Fryla rifle in my shuttle, usually for emergencies, but I could bring it here or take it to Zava and have her take a look at it and maybe replicate one of those.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. I'll take that Beretta for her, since he's shot all the ammunition out, I'm guessing.
Yeah, she hands it back.
Yeah, we'll have Zava go over that and give us a detailed analysis later. If push comes to shove, maybe we could replicate it for ourselves.
I'd certainly be happy to help.
Hi, do you have a detailed diagram of their physiology?
We have a basic one. Computer, please show bioinformation number 2. And sort of like a cutaway that you would see in a book or a chart of medical information, you are seeing a very crude representation of a circulatory system, of a vascular system, etc., etc.
I start patrolling the Thoth and inspection.
Okay.
Yeah. Could I have this information copied for my personal perusing?
Of course. And
Thank you.
to answer Merrick's question, no, Andromeda does not seem to be really reacting in any way visibly. She's mostly just sort of standing there taking in the information and just listening for the moment.
Iha, do the Toth believe in deities?
If they do, we've never come across it before.
I'm just thinking of their psychology at this point.
Well, I mean, where we're going, you're going to get first-hand experience with their psychology.
Well,
And
I
if
think
we
I have
ever
enough
do have
here.
to get involved, this is gonna get complicated real quick.
With permission, Captain, I'd like to head back to sickbay and start analyzing all of this data.
Yeah, that's primarily everything I think you might get out of this concerning work. Yeah. By all means, you're dismissed.
Thank you.
Kind of
Now,
voice my little question.
Hmm.
I speak would say, so how advanced or primitive is Toth technology?
I would say it is comparable to 2370 Starfleet technology based on what I know of it. So they might be a decade behind, but they are comparable to what we have here. She just motions around at the ship.
Based off that, science officer, in preparation for any possible engagement, I want to see what you can do about making as many possible electromagnetic targets we can give them. Since we're going to be dodging bullets, let's give them something else to shoot at should we need to do so.
Understood, Captain. I understand what you mean.
Good.
Captain, may I start working on my own little personal project? Namely, just try to make something that we can use to, well, hinder their own ship through their own systems.
Is this pretty much what you had in concern with this island?
Yes, in fact, that is all, Captain.
All right, the rest of you are dismissed then.
I had one other question. Iha, could you describe their ships and their abilities?
Certainly. Computer, please materialize a small 121 scale representation of their scout ship. And, sure enough, this is kind of what materializes. Big old spiky, edgy looking thing.
That thing is ugly.
So,
I kind of voice out loud the kind of murmur, so only if they're trying to hear me, I say, wow, that is one ugly ass ship.
try to get an understanding of tactical systems, propulsion, scanners, shields, armor. Just, I don't know if we want to ask questions, but we're just trying to get the lowdown.
I got you. There would be some basic information on these at the very least. And I would say that, excuse me, this particular ship in question that she's showing you is probably comparable to a Saber class.
Okay, that's good.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I think what we're going to do is have Zava, who would have stayed on the bridge as a matter of protocol, say, Zava to senior staff, please report to the bridge. We are approaching the conflict zone.
Acknowledged, on the way.
All right. So, as you all sort of return to your stations, looking at the time, I think that is where we're going to end the session. So, players, stick around for a little bit longer, but I am going to end the stream. So, of course, thank you for watching, and I will see most of you next week. All right, bye-bye, stream.